I've mixed in a lot of churches, and I've helped a lot of churches have better sound using the gear they already have. I've come to realize one thing. If I try to make every church I work with sound like my church, then I've missed it. So, in this video, this is going to be a bit of a different one. Let's talk about why sound shouldn't be about just your preference. And let's talk about what really matters in church sound. One quick pause. I wanted to let you know in the description below, got lots of resources. If you've seen my channel anytime, there's lots of X32 stuff on here. My X32 starter pack is in the description below. If you want the full package and all of that you can train your team with, you can have better sound in your church really fast. So back to the video. Recently, I worked with a team in person, and I was so reminded about this. Getting to know this team, attending their church, seeing just the general day to day of what that church looked like really reminded me of what it's all about. The team was made up of just faithful people that were there willing to serve and work harder than a lot of paid staff, honestly. The tech was good. There was no technical problem outside of just some general user improvements that we could make. But while we were dialing the system in, when we were going through their setup, getting to know them, the band was practicing, and I was really working to find that baseline, find the sound in the room that I had in my head for this church. And at the risk of sounding cliche, it just hit me so hard that this was a church that the word came first, that there was no show, there was no production per se. It was just faithful people leading others in worship. And the tech that we were improving and dialing in was so secondary to all of that, that we weren't creating something larger than life. We weren't creating anything honestly impressive. It was just a means to sing in a room, have things elevated to the point that the crowd can sing along easily. And that was it. So we worked together, and then I stuck around and attended both their services on Sunday. And it just drilled home even more on Sunday. The church wasn't big, but it was packed out in their first service. And then I swear, I think half the town showed up for a pancake breakfast after that between the services. It so moved me to see a church that just worshiped, that there wasn't any kind of production agenda. There wasn't anything that would come across as a show. I don't think you could possibly make that accusation of them. But they had a nice PA system. They had nice instruments. They had a nice Midas M32 board. It was a good setup and it sounded great in the room. But it hit me, especially on Sunday morning when I saw the crowd in the room, when people started showing up and we got into the service, that the mix I was building, that genuinely my goal wasn't to blow anyone away, wasn't to impress anyone with my mixing abilities or, whatever. Because it dawned on me that the mix I had created didn't even necessarily fit my taste. Like, could I have made the drums sound bigger and louder and more larger than life? Yeah. And it would have been a total distraction for what was actually needed in that space. Even though to my taste, it likely would have been, quote, better, it would have been an incredible disservice to the people in the seats. And so often, whenever I've worked with teams, what I see a lot of complaints is because the sound person is actually doubling down on what they think it should be. And whether they're right or wrong, whether you're right or wrong, whether I'm right or wrong, in the end, we're still servants. We're still in a serving role for the people in the seats and for the leadership of the church. A lot of times, as sound people, we know more about what's going on in the room than anyone else. We know more about the flow of the service, what's required of each moment, what's required before the service, after. We're the ones that deal with that. But what is so overlooked a lot of times is the responsibility that comes with that, that we are serving a room of potentially hundreds of people every single week. Honestly, when you put it that way, it's amazing. It's an amazing job and it's an amazing opportunity that you have to serve so many people. And honestly, serve so many people in a way that they will never say thank you. It's just the truth. And so what can happen In those situations, if we make decisions that don't serve the people and we let our own personal taste, our own personal styles get in the way, again, whether right or wrong, we end up doing more harm than actual good. So, the headline here, I'm not saying that a big mix is bad. I'm not saying that good sound is bad. I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is a misplaced mix is bad. The more churches I've worked with, the more that I've served in, I just realized that every church has a sound, that every people group has a sound, and they have their own preferences as a group. But in the end, the job is the same in all of those places. It's to find the sound that will serve the room best. It's to find whether it's the volume, the tonal balance, the style of the mix that is going to let the message be heard in that room in a way that meets people where they're at. The job isn't to force our own preferences on other people just because we know it's right. You know, I just remind myself so often. I try to keep this top of mind, and right here in the front of my mind that I say to our team a lot. I would like to run the drums harder. I honestly would, but it would be doing a disservice to people because that would distract them. I think the drums would sound better if I ran them harder, to be honest. But it's not a moment for me to prove myself right or make my preferences known in a room. It's a moment that people can meet Jesus and worship. And if I can play a part in that and make that easier for them, then that's a blessing. That's a blessing to me. And hopefully it can be a blessing to them. And so, all of this to say, my outlook on running sound in church is we have to be excellent, we have to be humble, and we have to make it about Jesus. Like, that's it. It's really those three things that added up with the skills that we have that allow us to be in a position that we can bless other people. So I hope this helped you. I hope it encouraged you. Subscribe here on YouTube and follow me on Instagram if you want more content like this. Share this with your worship team. Share this with your worship pastor. Share this with your pastor. Love to, have you around here. The tech tips aren't going away. I'm still going to be sharing those, but I also wanted to start sharing some more content like this, and I hope it resonates with you. So I'll see you guys in the next one.